Hey y'all, it's Steve, Hobo with Wood. This video I'm going to show you how to design from scratch this 6-layer project. It's available on hobowithwood.com, but I'm going to show you how to do this yourself from scratch, start to finish. Stay tuned. So some people ask, where do you get these ideas? Well, some of them come from in here, which is scary, and some of them are inspired by other places I've seen similar files. So I wanted to clear up on this one. This one was inspired by something I seen at Hobby Lobby. There are folks that are going to claim that, well, I copied their file or stole their file, but this was of my own design from photos of items I took at Hobby Lobby. And in fact, I went to Hobby Lobby on Valentine's Day, Friday, before the last live stream. And let's jump in here and take a look at some of these photos. In fact, somebody once told me, he said, you know, there's no such thing as an original idea anymore. Every idea's already been had. You just have it's rehatched and rethought and processed, but if you think of something, well, somebody most likely has already thought of it too. There's not many original ideas left out there, but to think that you own an idea is a bit silly. So look at these images from Hobby Lobby. I was looking for different crosses that I could do, and I like this one because you can see through there's a little gap there. These are actually multi-layers here within the heart on top of all of those. So that was really three-dimensional. I said, that's kind of cool and rustic looking. And I was like, okay, that's all right. What else is there? And so that one was a rustic heart or cross as well. I didn't really care too much for the simulated stainless there, the diamond plate. But I thought it was a kind of a cool idea. I thought, well, maybe I could do a play on something like that. And then this one, you know, for Valentine's Day, I did if Cupid can aim, so can you, and it was pointing toward a toilet. So I thought, hey, this could be a second piece that could be some good bathroom humor that I could do something with. And then for all the dog lovers, Home Sweet Home with paw prints. You've seen a dozen million kinds of things like this. I said, that's something that could easily be done. Then I seen this. I was like, oh, that would be really fun to do. You know, it's the door hanger. You know, no need to knock. We know you're here, the dogs. You know, if you're a dog owner, then you know this is something that you don't need a doorbell if you got dogs. But then this was taken, and there, if you see, 2024, 2000, February 14th. So I took this on Valentine's Day, and then on the 15th, somebody did a video showing these as like their original idea. But you know, I was already thinking about doing the same thing the day before, and it wasn't even my original idea. This was something that I seen and was inspired at Hobby Lobby. But then this one really spoke to me. I'm like, okay, this I could do something with. I didn't care for the leaves and the wreaths looking here at the bottom, but this part of it, these characteristics of the offsets stepping down inside there, I said, you know, I really like that, and I think I would like it if it was all the way around it instead of just right there at the base, because they don't do it up here. But I said, you know what? I think I'm going to do something like that. So this cross, this Love God cross, is the inspiration for the project I'm working on. This one was kind of neat, and I liked the accent pieces on the outermost ends of the cross. And I said, but those are easily broken because you start engraving, cutting stuff that fragile, it can be problematic. But that was my inspiration for this. It wasn't anybody else's design that I seen laser crafting in Etsy or YouTube, Facebook. It was from Hobby Lobby, and this piece here. So let's look at this and how it's laid out. It's actually 6 layers. The original piece. I released this on HoboWithWood.com. I think around Valentine's Day. I designed this on the 15th, I think. The 15th or the 16th. But this was the original version. And you see it's got no back on it. And I actually like it open. But some folks said, hey, for hanging it, it's a little bit. And I said, well, you got a great big piece right here you can put a hanger on. And now your wall color shows through. And, I kind of like it. But I listened and I said, okay, well, I'll add a back. So I added a back layer to it. But then while I was in the process of working, let's see here, I was putting together multiple layers. In fact, I was playing with different types of engravings that might go, behind the cross that would fill that center void up. I was playing with different things, and doing so, I realized, so let me get these, that I had made another gaff when I was putting it together, or when I was designing it. Still don't have that right. Let's see here. Get these in the right order. There we go. So there, putting that like that, I was like, okay, well that was kind of okay with that little engraving in there. That gives it another dimension, making it look like it possibly goes back even further. So that was kind of a neat illusion. And if you did it with the offset feel like I did, you can even create more of a step down look to it. But I noticed something after I did that engraving. I did not include the offsets in the D, and I should have. I wanted the O open. I wanted the O to be open, but I've got the offsets inside the D or the G there. There you go. But I didn't include any offsets in the D, and that is not balanced. And so I said, well, either need to take the offsets out of the G or add them to the D. But then I got looking and I said, well, I got them in the E and everywhere else, so I just need to add them in here. So that's what we did. There you got the offsets in the G and the offsets in the D and the back on it, and I put my brand on it. So that's a really nice finished piece, and that's 6 layers thick. So we're going to jump into Lightburn. I'm going to do my best to walk through this as quickly as I can without too many gaffes and errors, but creating this from scratch, inevitably I'm going to mess up and have to go back and fix things. But hey, that's part of the learning curve and the creative process. I've done this design two or three times, so we'll probably get through it pretty quick. But once you see the amount of work that goes into creating a piece like this, it might be something you go, yeah, I can do that, but for $4.99 and I can go over to HoboWithWood.com and just download it, I think I'll just go download it. But if you watch this, you'll be able to learn the techniques that went into putting this together. And then maybe you don't want to create this file, but with the techniques you learn, you can create something that's unique for yourself. So this is going to be a good watch. Lots of good information in it. If you jump around, you're going to miss out on something, I promise. So you're going to want to watch this, and including the squirrels, because they're going to be important. All right, so let's get everything ready and get switched over here to Lightburn. So this is the file as it is right now. If you go to HoboWithWood.com and download the file, this is how you'll get it. If you have already gone to HoboWithWood.com and purchased this file, all you need to do is log back into your account and go download it again, and you'll get Love God V2. Now it's V2 because it's the one the second version I've saved to the website, but this is probably about the 5th or 6th version of this, but I feel good that this is the final one. So how do I create all these layers to get this look? Well, in order to show you, we got to do one thing. Start from scratch. Now, when I'm designing this cross, I wanted to do it within my 300 millimeter material. So lock my aspect ratio, tell this is a 300 millimeter piece. Put it in the center of my page. There is my work area. Now, my crosses are 4x3. What do I mean by that? Well, 4 squares by 3 squares. And if I've got 300 millimeter wood to cut out, then I want to have a little bit of margin of error. So I'm going to say an overall height of 290 millimeters. So if I draw out a square, holding my shift key, draw out a square. Doesn't really matter what size. I'm just going to put a square out there. And I'm going to come up here to the, got my aspect ratio locked. I'm going to come up here to the width. And I'm going to say 290 millimeters divided by 4. 72.5 millimeters. Now, if I do a quick array and do 4 rows with no Y spacing, I'm not going to group my results, but I am, and I don't even need to select the results and say OK, because I need to duplicate that. Control D, duplicate it, bring that down here, and I'm going to grab this corner and dock it right up there. Control D one more time and put it right there. So there is 4 by 3. And I'm going to weld these all together. Select 2, weld it, select that one, weld it. Just keep selecting them. You can do 2 at a time. 2 objects at a time. Alright, now, there is my base cross. But I wanted to give this one, if we go back and look at, let's see here, my photograph, it had some little bit of curve to it. And, you know, this one's worn and jagged. Now, I didn't want to do the angles on the sides, but I did like to have, I like the idea of having a little bit of curvature to the cross, the side pieces. So what I did was take my cross, go into node editing, and I'm going to insert a middle node on all of the side pieces that are not on the outermost perimeter. So I'm going to come here, and it doesn't matter where you're at on the line. If you just get your cursor to turn into that little mark there, indicating you're on the line, just hit the letter M, and that'll put a node in the middle of the line. As long as you're on the line and hit the letter M, it'll put a node in the middle. And now I've got a middle node on all of those pieces. Now I'm going to check my settings. All right, my arrow movement, my shape movement increments for the arrow, I've got set to 10 millimeters. So I'll say OK. I'm going to select all of those 4, leaving the corners alone. Use my arrow to come in. One movement, 10 millimeters. Select those 4, come in. Select these 4 and come down. Select these 4 and go up. Now, that's starting to look like I want, but I don't want to have the angles. So I'm going to hover over each of these middle nodes and hit the letter S for smooth. S. S. And there is the cross that I want to start with. In fact, if I take and select that cross, put it on a cut path, and I'm going to put a tool path in the middle of that cross. I'm going to come right here to that point where I get crosshairs and come down here to get crosshairs. Select just that, put it on a toolpath. Now that toolpath will serve as my centering block or square when I want to put my logo in there. So I'm going to double click my logo. There's my logo. I can hold my shift button, select that square and center it up. And that's going to put my logo right where I want it to be on the back of the square. So let's get rid of that because you're going to put your logo on there. All right, so that, if I group though, is actually, you know what? Before I do that, I'm going to select just the cross, duplicate it, and now hold my shift button and select that square. Move it up here and group it. There is the back. That's layer 1 or layer 6, depending on how you count them. It's the first layer as you're putting it together. Now I need 4 more layers. And I actually, you know what, when you're designing this, you're like, well, I don't know how many layers I'm going to need because I don't know how many I'm going to get. But I want this to be the largest piece. So now I want to create some offsets, not getting any larger than this. So I've got to create offsets coming inward. And that's going to, you can only come in so far until they start overlapping or become a problem. And that's how many you can create. And so that's how we're going to learn that. So if I select just this piece, I'm going to come in 5mm offsets. So I'm 5mm in, inward offset with corners, outer shapes only. Select the resulting objects. Do not delete the original objects, and optimize or simplify results and say OK. And since I've got this select resulting objects turned on, it's going to select the offset that gets created. So I say OK. And now all I got to do is come right back to offsets, say OK. Come right back to offsets, say OK. Come right back to offsets and say OK. Now, if I try to do one more offset, you don't get a complete offset. It's broke up. So that is not going to work. So I'm going to say cancel. So now you know how many you can create. And so how many was that? Well, if we look at each of these as an individual piece, each pair, there's one pair. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 of them. But there's only one of each of these. So in order to create these offsets, I need to create duplications of this outermost piece that can be grouped with these others so that they have 4 individual pieces. So if I need 4 of them, I've got 1, I need to duplicate this 3 times. So Control D 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now, with that already selected, I can grab 1 right here, group it, then go back and grab one of the outer ones. Well, that's going to grab them both. We'll just drag it out of the way. There's one. Select one of the outer ones, hold shift and select that one, group it, move it out of the way. Select an outer one, hold my shift button, select that one, group it, move it out of the way, and then group these 2. And now there are 5 layers. And if I was to take and group all of those, or not group them, but center them all, there you have your 5-layer piece. Now we need to do the text. Now the text is a little bit of work. It's not difficult, but you have to know what to look for and how to do it and what to think about. So let's undo that grouping or that centering. All right. I'm going to select those, leaving the back off of it, bullseye all of those and put them all back in the center of the page. And now I'm going to put my text on here. And I'm going to do my horizontal text first, which is God. Oh, and that's something I need to point out to you. This font I'm using is Celtic MD. Celtic MD. In fact, show you where to get it if you don't have it. If you go to dafont.com, you may have to create an account, but it's free. But I don't think so because I'm not logged in here. And if you go over to the search bar and you search for Celtic, C-E-L-T-I-C, Celtic, there it is right there, Celtic MD. You can download it, install it, and it will be available for you to use in Lightburn once you've installed it on your computer. So, back to Lightburn. The one thing about that font, turn my cap locks off, your capital letters and your lowercase letters are different. Your capitals have the Celtic knots in them, and the lowercase are just your Celtic looking font. Okay? Well, we want those knots in all of them, so I'm going to turn cap locks on, and we've got God. Now, to those who are really spatially aware with your design work, you can see immediately that we have a problem with those letters. They are not symmetrical. They're not the same size. And that's going to be a problem when you go to center it in your artwork. Because if we send this to the center of the page, well, we don't want to put it in the center of the page. That's another thing we got to do. Let's put this back over here for a second. We need to create some toolpaths. So I'm going to go to my selector tool, deselect everything, then grab a square, and I'm going to go from corner to corner on my horizontal piece, get crosshairs there, come down to these, get crosshairs, and now I need to do it vertically as well. So I'm going to get those crosshairs, come down to these crosshairs, and there. Now I have two toolpaths, and God needs to be centered up in that toolpath. And because the letters are not the same size, you can see God is not centered on that cross. So we've got to fix that. We've got to get our sizes correct. And what I'm looking for in the size, I need to have a really good overlapping on the D onto this last two pair. That outer pair is the topmost offset, and I need to have that D sitting really good and strong on there. The G the same way, and that's not terrible. In fact, that would probably work. In fact, I'm going to just do. Well, I might have to change these all because they're all different. What I'm going to do now is selected the font, and I'm going to right-click, convert it to a path, and now that they're a path, I think they're individual pieces. They are. Okay. So now I need to select all of the D and group it. And do that for each letter. All of the O. I don't know if I got all of it or not. I'm not going to take a chance. I'm going to try it again. All of the O. Group it. And all of the G. And group it. And now when we do, we can see the dimensions. I'm going to unlock my aspect ratio. This one is 42 by 44, 55 by 43, and 54 by 43 and change. I'm going to use this one, and we're going to say make it 54 by 44. 54 by 44. And you hardly seen that one move at all. This one, 54 by 44. And lastly, the G, 54 by 44. Now that's going to be way too close, so I'm going to scoot it over too far. There we go. That's not bad. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw another toolpath, and I'm going to do a square, and I will come from this crosshair down to this crosshair. Selector tool, select my O, hold my shift button and select that square I just drew and put it in the center. Now, the O is perfectly centered. Now what I can do is take my D, select it, and let's see what happens if I try to dock it with no padding. Turn my padding to 0, and I'm going to try and dock it or send it to the left. And it didn't do anything because the tips of this D are already, I think, extending past the edge of what the O would be. So if I moved it over out of the way and now send it back to dock, nope. You know what? I'll turn all the other paths off. Turn off the red layer. Don't show it. And I'm going to put these two toolpaths on the red layer. Don't show it. I'm done with this toolpath. I'm going to delete it. And now try to dock it. Still don't want to do anything. All right. So I want to make sure this is all grouped. It is. That's all grouped. It is. So now I'm going to select this one and Alt, Shift, H. All right, yeah, I was hoping to butt it up against each other, and what I guess it's doing is it's putting it, the edge of that D is aligned up to the edge of that O. But that also moved the O. I did those in the wrong order. So we'll put the O back where it was at. D, O, Alt, Shift, H. That moved the D. Now those are aligned, and if I was to draw a straight line from there down to there, they'd be touching each other. If I do G and O and Alt, Shift, H, that moved that over. All right. Now I want to create some spacing in there. And with turn my cross back on, and my control was at 10 millimeters. My arrow, yep, 10 millimeters. Say okay. I select my D and just move over 10. Get my G and move over 10. And that actually might be a little bit much. So let's make that 5. I'm going to change that to 5 millimeters. Say okay. And now I can just come back 5. Yeah, I like that better. All right. That's a good overlap there, and there. That looks good. All right. So I'm happy with the positioning of those letters. Now I need to do love. So I'm going to do individual letters because I'm going to have to resize them all anyway and position them. So I'm just going to do L. See, text, capital L. Turn that back on. There we go. I had it on the wrong path. Let's put that on the blue tool path. And then I'll come down here, put in the LO. Now I need a V and an E. All right. Now those are all different shapes or heights and widths and not of the right size, but we're going to make these work. And so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select just the L and the O and align it to the top. Nope, not to the top. I needed to undo that. My docking's not working, but you know what? I'm just going to align it to center for right now. There we go. Now it's centered over the O. And now I'll just start bringing it down. Hold my control arrow and bring it down nice and slow. And then once I've got it about right there, I'll use my control or just my arrow button to arrow up once. And that's going to arrow it up 5 millimeters. So now I've got a 5 millimeter gap around the L, the G, and the D around the O. The V. And the arrow down one time. And then the E. All right, and arrow down. All right, there we go. Now, problem. The V is wider than the cross. L looks good. The E looks good. Actually, the E's too narrow. The E does not overlap the outermost offset. Neither does the L. So I actually got to rework all these. I've got the position correct. So the L, I need to make it wider. And I'm gonna we'll look at possibly. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna look how this was 54 by 44. So if I select the L, if I've got its position in relation to the O in the correct space, so if I make it any higher, any wider and taller, I don't want this to change. So I'm going to move my anchor point to the bottom center. So now whenever I change the size of it, it's going to move up and out and away from the center here and not change its location. So if I change the width and height to 54 by 44, like the other letters, it's too wide, and I'm going to make it narrower. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock my aspect ratio so that when I make it a little bit skinnier, I need to change the width. Let's change it to 50 with my anchor point still in the bottom center. I don't know if I like that or not. I think I'm going to unlock the aspect ratio and put the height back to 44. Yeah, that's better. Because there's 44, that's 44, and just 50. Yeah, all right, so now I've got dimensions of 50 and 44 on the letters. So if I change this V, when I move it, I don't want to change its location, so I need to change my anchor point. I'm going to anchor it to the top because that's where it's positioned, and I want it to stay right there at the top. So now I'll make it 50. Let's see where you at. 50 wide and 44 tall. And this one, same thing. I'll leave my anchor there and say 50, 44. It don't look like it's centered though, and neither is the V. So let's check all of them real quick. The L and the O and center it. That looks good. The V and the O and center. There we go. And the E and the V and center. That's better. All right. All right. I like that. Now, we need to look at how we're going to weld these letters into place. And let's take a look here. I've left, in fact, I'll show you the one without the back on it. The O is completely open. I don't want any of the offsets in there. So I've got to make sure I don't have any offsets protruding into here. But I also, if you look real close there, you see how that comes to a point and connects in here to the O? Because as it stands right now, I'll show you in Lightburn in a second, the O is not touching the topmost offset, and it's barely touching the second offset. Touching is touching, but it's just barely touching. And if you look at all the offsets, they all have been turned on the O. They all kind of point into the center of the O. So I've got to make that modification to all of the offsets, and then we can weld the letters in there. So let's get back over here to the Lightburn. And here you can see what I'm talking about. Here's the O, the outermost part of the O, and this offset, just that corner and that corner, they're not touching. So the O would not be part of the outermost offset, and that would not work very well. And then here, these I don't want inside the O. Those need to go away. They need to go bye-bye, which that can be done with the Boolean tool. But these edits can't be done with anything other than node editing. So what I'm going to need to do is, I ain't real sure how that toolpath got on there, but I don't want it. We're going to delete it. Delete it. There we go. I'm going to look at my grid setup. My grid array. Let's make my grid array every 5 millimeters. And we're going to make it a medium contrast. We might need to make it a darker, but we'll see. Alright. Now what I'm going to do is... I think it'll be less confusing if I do each layer individually. So if I just select that outermost layer one time, that got the toolpath. I don't want the toolpath. Here we go. There. Drag that out of the way. Drag that out of the way. Oh, didn't even do that. Meant to do that. Drag that. And I don't think I need these toolpaths right now, so I'm going to go ahead and delete those. Alright, so now you can see there's the outermost offset and the letters that are going to be sitting on the very top of the cross. But we want those letters to be through the entire cross. It adds some structure to it. It has a place to glue up your letters, glue the crosses together. It serves a purpose. But you can see the O is not attached. It's not going to work. So for right now, I'll even delete that, get rid of it. I'm going to group all of this. And I'm going to drag this corner right over to the corner of that grid. There we go. And I was hoping they'd all be on a corner, but they're not. That's at 2.5. That one's... Alright, so I need to change my grid ratio to 2.5 millimeters. So if I go to settings, change this to 2.5, and OK. There we go. Now each corner is close to it being in a corner. Close enough for what we need to do here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag each one of these corners inside the O. But I don't want to just, right now they're grouped. If I ungroup this, grab just this one piece here, it's not, ungroup that one again, there we go. Grab the innermost offset, and if I go to node editing, and I just grab this node and pull it down here to where it's coming in 5 millimeters, and it'll be inside, like that. And I think that'd actually be okay on this particular one. It's not going to be a problem. But it will be a problem on the future one. So let's see. This one is going to come in to here. And this one will come in to here. And here to here. Alright, so now those are inside there, and whenever I go to weld the letters up, it will be welded to the O, and everything's going to work out fine. Now the problem is the next layer. I'm going to regroup these two layers, and I'm going to put it on the red toolpath, and I'm going to grab the next, which is this one, and send it in here. And I don't know if that got, nope, didn't actually get centered. So maybe this ain't the center of the work bed. Let's group it all for right now. Center. There we go. Move that. Now we can center that. There we go. Done. All right. Now here's the problem with that you didn't have on the outermost piece. So if I select just this here and I ungroup it to where I can go into node editing, and if I grab this innermost piece and I want to bring it in 5 millimeters, I need to relocate everything to where I'm on a good grid, because that's going to be a little bit, I can do it visually, it'll be about right there, give or take, I think. But I'm going to move it into the grid so it's aligned properly. But when you move just that one point, it's not going to make this all, keep this symmetrical around there. So we'll have to do something different. But before we do that, and this is why everything wasn't centered. Select everything, and I'm going to bring this to there, about, and that will approximately put everything on a corner, give or take, real close. But now, when I ungroup it all, and we go back to node editing, and we go to this one, there we go. Now I'll show you, if I drag this down to here, come on, there we go. It kind of gets a little bit, it starts to become narrower as it comes in. So before I do that, I'm going to undo, put that back. These are supposed to be 5 millimeter offsets. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to come here. So I'm coming in, these are, because these are 2.5 millimeters, isn't that right? Isn't that what I did? Yep, 2.5 millimeters. So I'm going to come back here, 2.5, 2.5 is 5. I'm going to insert a node, I, and I. Insert a node there and there, and now grab this and bring it down to here. Come on, it was there. It's 2.5, it's 5. And I actually think that's going to look better. So if I come over here and insert node there, and then bring this one down. There and there. There we go. Insert, insert. And there. That looks better. Now I need to group that with a outer piece. Group those back. So there's that, and that'll get welded to an O and a D. Now the third layer, send that to the center of this, and just to keep it looking uniform, it's inside, and that's fine, but I want to change this to where it has a little bit of an angle coming down to it. So I'm just going to come see here. So that's grouped with the outer piece. We're going to ungroup it. I'm going to come in here and put a node here. Actually, I can go to node editing. Why didn't it go to node editing? There we go. So coming down to here, insert. Okay, and now I can move these, and this one actually would need to come inside to about there. Same thing here and here and here. Alright, so now select that one and the outermost piece and group that back together. Okay. Now those, I don't want those points inside there, but that's okay. I can get rid of those whenever we do our welding the letters up. And then lastly, this one's not going to be quite as noticeable, but we're going to go ahead and do it. Hold that, shift, and center it up. And now what I'm going to do is select just that outer piece, ungroup it, select it again, go to node editing, and then I'm going to look for where those angles begin, which is about out here. Those all line up pretty much. We'll come here, insert there, 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 and there, and here and here. Now if I bring that down, and I did a lot more precision with my measurements and movements with the file that you download, because I think put a square right in here and got everything right perfectly lined up. But I'm just showing you how I did it really quick right now. You get the gist of what's going on. So now if I select that inner piece and the outer piece and group those back together, I can put this one back on the cut path. Alright, so now those are reshaped. They're going to all be touching my letters. That's good. In fact, what I need to do with my letters, select them all, Control D, duplicate them, bring the letters up here. Then I need to ungroup, and I need to select all of my outermost perimeters. One, I don't know if I got just that. All right. One, hold my shift button. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And and now I need to get the inner pieces, the O and the inner piece of the D. And I'm going to group those. I'm going to duplicate them with Control D and put them on the cut path. Oh, everything wasn't ungrouped. Of course not. So let's undo. Go back to where I moved them out. Move them out. There we go. Now let's ungroup everything until we got it all ungrouped. Ungrouped. Nope. Ungrouped, ungroup. All right. Now, try that again. Outer, outer. We'll get the outer and the inner. Outer and the inner. And outer, outer. Now we'll group those. Control D, put them on a cut path. Why is, oh, you know why? Because I never converted the LVE to a path. I forgot to do that. All right, undo, 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 undo. Not a group. All right, undo, 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 undo. Going to ungroup everything. It's undone. All right, now we'll select it all, right click, convert to a path. Now let's try it again. Told you I'm going to mess up. 1, 2, 3, and the inside. The D. You think this is worth $4.99, ladies and gentlemen? Huh? Here and here. Now Control D, duplicate it, group it, and put it on a cut path. There we go. Now we're clicking with Grisco. All right, put that over there for a second. We're going to grab all this and we're going to group it all and put it on an engraved layer. And now I can put that back on top of that. And that is the topmost piece for engraving and cutting. So now I can use this as a true tool path. And what I'm going to need are the inner and outermost pieces. So like I had, well, like I've got up here with the red. So let's ungroup that for a second. Turn the black layer off. I've already got it right there, so I'm going to grab that and I'm going to say Control D, duplicate it, and bring that down here. Turn the red or the black layer back on and group that back together. Okay. So now I can group all of that and put it over the text, not that. Let's try this. We'll just move it into place. There. Now, with that there, I don't need that toolpath. So I'm going to select my toolpath, deselect this one, and now I'll just move this out of the way for right now, just in case I need it. But that's in its proper place. Now I'm going to need to weld all this into each individual offset. And there are multiple here. So let's do this. I'm going to select that. I'm going to Control D. I'm going to duplicate it. Holding my Shift button, select this innermost offset, which should be grouped with an outer one, and when I drag it off to the side, there we go. Now I need to use the booleans to create the desired outcome. I want all of this to go away, but I want to keep this right here. So since I'm wanting two different results, I'm going to have to use two different tools. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to select this, ungroup it. It's all selected. Now I'll hold my Control button and deselect that piece, then group it back together, then hold my Shift button and select the offsets again. And I think it's the union that I want. Yep, that's what I want right there. Now with that, I'll hold my Shift button and select that O, and I'm going to subtract it, and that gives me one piece. There we go. Done. All right, had to think that through for a second. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to select all the text. I'm going to duplicate it, hold my shift button, grab the innermost offset, move it over. Then I'm going to select just my text, ungroup it. Even though I ungrouped it, it's all still selected, so I can hold my control button and select the O, and that deselects the inner part of the O rather. Now group it all back together, holding my shift key, select the offset, do the union, hold my shift button, select the inner part of the O and subtract that, and that becomes one piece. Control D, duplicate, hold my shift button, select that one, move it over here, same thing. Ungroup, unselect, regroup, shift, union, shift, subtract. Now the last one. The last one, that, and that, and now if I just do a union, that's not going to work. So that, oh, because they're not grouped. Let's group those back together. There we go. And there we go. And now if we do a union, I still don't know if it's going to give me the right result. And it did. Okay. That's what we need. All right. So now, if we put all of those on top of another, center them up. Well, you know what? We won't put it on the grid. We'll put it over here. That gives you the result that you're looking for. Then you're going to put these individually engraved and cut out right on top of that to give you the 5th layer. And then you put all of that on top of the solid back piece, and now you got a 6-layer piece. Whew! All right, done. So, this is really a beautiful piece, and you can see it's, I don't know how long this video has been recording, but it's some time involved. It's not difficult. You do have to think, yeah, and even though I've done this, I had to think and think again and rethink. But on the actual design that if you go to hobowithwood.com and download it, whenever I was doing these inner edits, I was really precise with all of the movements and measurements to make sure everything stayed symmetrical. So I wasn't quite so Pacific with this one. I was a little bit Atlantic, just getting general instead of being very Pacific. So this is available on hobowithwood.com. You can see it's worth the $4.99 if you do not want to go make the file yourself. It's set up. In fact, let's go back over here. We're going to delete everything we just did. All that work is gone. Do you want to save it? No, we don't. I'm going to import from my desktop, from the my e-commerce, and we go to the Love God folder, Love God Cross, and now we Love God version 2, open. This is exactly how you'll get it whenever you bring it in from the website. And don't know why I saved it with the toolpath on there, but it's on there. This is, it was a lot of work. It was a lot of fun to create. I learned some stuff doing this. I learn every time I make a file. And I enjoy doing it. I encourage you to try and do this yourself, just so you can get familiar with the tools in Lightburn. But if you don't want to make this specific cross, but you'd like to have it, hobowithwood.com. Jump over there and grab it. It's $4.99. If you've already bought the file, go in, log into your account, download it again, and you will see it as the V2, Love God V2. And you should have the new improved version with the back and the improved offsets. My patrons get the files at a discount. Bronze gets it for 60% off. Silver gets them at 80% off. And gold gets the files for free. The best deal going right now is to become a Patreon Hobo with Wood, or patreon.com/hobowithwood. Become a gold patron. You have access to all of my files for free. I am doing my best to put up at least one, if not two files a week. You cannot, you would probably be hard pressed to make all of the files that I put out in the month's time. You get more than your $20 worth, I promise you. And that's how I keep the lights on. It's how I pay the bills. It's how I get the money to buy all this material to design these products to give away to my patrons for free. This right here, that's the waste that I generated just trying to put these crosses together. And that's not even all of it. I've got several more pieces over there, and like I said, in multiple failures, and I put a lot of time and work and energy into creating these files for you guys, and hope that you learn something from the videos showing you how to do it. But jump over there, buy as many of the files as you can, consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Your support would be greatly appreciated. And now for some really exciting news for those who have hung around this long. You are my true supporters. If you're still here, thank you. Father's Day this year, Father's Day 2024, will be my 2-year anniversary as Hobo with Wood on YouTube. And I've got some exciting things going to happen for this year's anniversary. I have one big goal, though. It's not a requirement, it's just a goal. I want to be at 10,000 subscribers before the second anniversary. It's going to happen fluidly. It's going to take place. And I'm on track to probably even be there without even asking folks. But I noticed today I got my recap from YouTube. Half of my viewers are not subscribers. The majority of my viewers are my demographic. They're in between 55 and 65 years old. Some of them, it's their first time. You've not been doing much on YouTube at all. You're not aware. It does not cost anything to subscribe. In fact, I made the announcement on my last live stream. I'm no longer going to be soliciting donations to the channel in the way of super thanks or go to my PayPal or all that. All of those options are still there, and those are down in the more section below the video. If you want to contribute or do a super thanks, you are more than welcome, and it'll be greatly appreciated. I'm not going to be hounding you in every video constantly about donating to the channel. I only bring up the Patreon because it's in your best interest to join. If you're looking for new files and new unique projects, and you want stuff that's designed in Lightburn, laser friendly, laser ready, that's my files. The junk you buy off of Etsy, majority of them may have never even been tested. Before mine ever go out, they're always tested, and it's worth your money for that $20 Patreon support. But back to the big announcement. If I can get to 10, no, it's not even a condition. I want to be at 10,000 before the anniversary. But my plan is for this anniversary, which will be Father's Day, wherever that weekend, whatever that live stream falls, I think it might be. In fact, let's just take a look. Let me go look at Google real fast. Father's Day 2024 is going to be on Sunday, the 16th of June. So Saturday, June the 15th. Saturday, June the 15th. I'm going to be giving away a laser. You don't need to know, or there's no conditions on, well, I've got to have this many viewers, I got to have this many likes. You just need to be there. And somebody on June the 15th is going to get a free laser. I'm still working out the details on what it's going to be. But I promise it's going to be really nice. It's going to be really, really nice. And somebody on June the 15th is going to get a free laser. I'm still working out all the logistics. I'm trying to make it so that it's not even limited to the lower 48. I'm catering to all of my viewers as best I can. That's why I'm doing every other Saturday at 3 and every other Saturday at 9. So I can appeal to the European market and to the North American market. So even on my giveaway, I don't know all the details yet. I'm still putting it together. But June the 15th will be my 2-year anniversary. And I am planning on giving away a laser on hobowithwood.com. A really nice laser. And I'm hoping to have 10,000 subscribers before then. But back to what I was saying, you guys that are kind of new to this, the subscription to hobowithwood.com on YouTube don't cost you a penny. It helps me immensely. Over half of you watching are not subscribed. Go down there and hit the subscribe button. And if you want to make sure you're not missing out on any future videos, hit that bell, that notifications. That lets you know whenever I'm either going live or there's a new video that's being released. So hit that subscribe button and hit that notifications bell. It's going to help me out immensely just by you doing that. And again, don't cost you nothing, but it's going to help me out drastically. So once again, guys, thanks for hanging around. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned a lot in this. I hope you found it informative and entertaining. I enjoyed making it. I really love it when you jump over to hobowithwood.com and just buy it instead of going and making it yourself. But I really want you to learn how to do these. Jump over to the website. Check it out. Lots of free files there, even if you're not a patron. hobowithwood.com. I'm Steve. I am Hobo with Wood. And I'll see you in the next video.